Hello everyone and welcome to a brand new video. Today we're here with part 23 of our F1 2021 MyTeam Career mode here in Season 2, preparing for the third round of the season at the Portuguese Grand Prix. In case you wanted to have a look at a little recap on where the championship is sitting, Sainz is up in P4 on 18 points, quite a way off the lead at this point. The two McLarens equal on points for first and second there, and Bottas in third. We are way down in P9 after not the best time last time out in Imola, only getting 9th place and only scoring ourselves a couple points. We are equal with Charles Leclerc there, and you can see here is the sort of the race results from the first two rounds. So finishing 6th and 9th for us, and Sainz doing a bit better in 4th and 7th. The two McLarens up front have obviously traded second and first and second there. And in terms of car performance now, as we move into the weekend, we have actually moved ourselves up. So we are now the third fastest car on paper, that is, and we're going to zoom in a little bit just to have a look at how close it is. You can see between McLaren and Mercedes, they practically have an equal car to each other, so it's going to be very close to either the driver or maybe differences. I'm not too sure whether maybe McLaren has a bit of a better aero package, whereas Mercedes has just a slightly better chassis or an engine or something. We do have a little bit of a gap to Red Bull, and then Ferrari's actually closing in a little bit after their poor season last time. Obviously, we were very equal in Imola, but they've trailed off a little bit, but I'm sure they'll bring upgrades next time round, and then we've got a big gap back to the cars behind. And just having a look here, you can see it's still going through the practice programs and stuff, just not showing it anymore, bringing in just over 1,000 points this time around, both myself and Sainz combined, so that's good. And in terms of acclaim, we are closing in on halfway through level 18, so once we get to level 20, we'll be able to unlock that 4th sponsor. But here we go now, heading into qualifying. Obviously, it's going to be a dry qualifying session, as you can see here in the background. It's also supposed to be a dry race, so no wet weather this time round, unlike last time when it was all full wets. But here we go now for our first quali lap, and this is my first lap around this track. Oh, not my first lap, but I haven't done any proper laps in anger around here. I've just sort of done a few cider laps, but yeah, it's going to be a bit of a challenge, I guess, to actually try and do some fast laps around here compared to the AI, especially with how competitive they've been the first two rounds of the season so far. As you can see, not the greatest start so far, some lock-ups, and car feels a bit twitchy, and as we skip further through the lap, you can see still getting little kicks of oversteer, and this corner here I was struggling with for so much, basically most of this weekend. That's probably my weakest point on the track as we head through the final corner on to the main straight. So that corner is a very important corner as it leads you all the way down to turn 1. You can see we crossed the line and it's P16, and we're only ahead of Nikita Mazepin there. A few other cars haven't set time, so second slowest time to have been set so far. And once everyone completes their first laps, you can see Sainz doing a great job up in third place behind just the two McLarens who are doing well again, and we are down in P21, only ahead of the Haas and Mazepin. So we are obviously going to have to go for a second flying lap here in hopes of getting through to Q2, because it looks like Sainz will be. I really don't want to get knocked out here in Q1. You can see just through the first few corners, we're already 3.5, 4 tenths up now. As we head through turn 4, we're 6 tenths up as we head down the straight, making sure to enable DRS as soon as possible. Braking for the hairpin, we're now 8 tenths up, so we've gained heaps of time here. Obviously, we were 2.5 seconds off on our first lap, and everyone else around us would have improved again. So as we head through this corner, getting a much better run this time round, we are 1.3, 1.4 seconds up as we head through the final long corner. This is absolutely flat out here as we head up to the line. Is it going to be enough to go through to Q2? Yes, it is. It's going to be P12 there in Q1, and you can see Daniel Ricciardo goes fastest ahead of his teammate Lando Norris. Sainz stays P3, and there we are in 12th, 1.1 seconds off of the fastest time. So going to have to push a bit harder this time round if we want to get through into Q3. You can see this time we're going to be starting on the mediums for our first lap. Hopefully everyone else sort of does a similar strategy, because I'm hoping to do a start on the mediums in the next in the race. I think it's going to be a real push to do a one stop if we have to start on the softs, but you can see everyone else is doing softs at the moment, so it looks like we're going to be the only ones on mediums, and I doubt we're going to have enough pace to get into the top 10 on the mediums as we cross the line now, and you can see we stay in P16, almost 6/10 off of Sonoda and 12th there, and Signs has actually set the provisional fastest time of the session, 9 thousandths of a second ahead of second place. But for this second lap now, I'm going to leave you with just the audio.
Just 30 seconds left in the session. Two minutes remaining in the session. We need a good lap here or we're out of qualifying.
So as we come around the final corner, it's been a pretty good lap as we cross the line. It is just P10 there, so we just scraped through into Q3. You can see by just about a tenth and a half ahead of Fernando Alonso. Their Signs ends up in P6, just about 4/10 off of Lewis Hamilton, who actually ended up on provisional pole for that qualifying session. But in Q3, we're going to have to push very hard if we want to be able to at least get up near our teammate. Signs has outdone me in both qualifying sessions so far, and actually in both races so far. So some new teammate, new to the team, and he's sort of showing me up at the moment. But you can see we're pushing really hard here on our first lap of Q3. Not the perfect turn 3 there, just sort of locking up and going a little bit wider, missing the apex as we head up the hill. This is where I'm fastest on track. You can see we're about 3.5 tenths up on Hamilton in P6 there as we head into the hairpin, but we're now going to cut a little bit further on into the lap. You can see towards the end, out of the final corner. This is actually my slower sector here, the final sector, and it's a bit of a struggle. I'm not too sure where exactly I'm losing all the time. I don't think I'm getting too bad of a run out of that sort of last corner, but you can see we end up in 10th, 8.5 tenths off of Hamilton in 6th there. So I'm going to have to find something. You can see Signs sitting in 2nd at the moment, about 2.5 tenths off of Norris. But here we go now for our final qualifying lap. And we're going to run through this lap as we head down the main straight, getting a little bit of better run onto this straight. You can see the time slowly working its way down as we brake at the 100-meter board, turn in very fast. You try and use as much curve as possible without invalidating your lap as we brake for turn 3. A bit better this time, carrying a bit more speed, actually getting towards that apex, and not quite, but almost flat out there through turn 4 up the hill. The car gets very unbalanced, and we're about half a tenth up as we set a purple first sector, braking at the 100-meter board, turning in 3rd gear. Have to make sure the car is straight as you get on the power. I've struggled to get the power down properly there, as you can see, but we are about a tenth and a half up as we head through the right-hander there in 4th gear now as we head up the hill again, trying to get the car straight to get onto the power as we head through this roller coaster section, using as much curve as possible to shortcut the track as much as we're allowed. And now 4th gear again, and once again, this is a very common theme around this track, having to get the car straight to get onto the power, especially with all the undulation. The car is very unsettled. You want to have a stable car through here as we head into the final corner. This is where I struggle a lot. You can see we're about 7 tenths up as we head through the final corner. It's now going to be 9 tenths up, almost a second up as we head through the final corner. This is flat out easy in these F1 cars, especially in Quali Sim, as we head to the line. What is it? It is P8, so that was a pretty good lap. I don't really think I could have done too much better, and it is going to be P8. We're only 3 tenths off of Lando Norris on pole position, and you can see Carlos Sainz in 3rd place there, about a tenth and a half off. So not a bad quali session. First time in Q3 this season for myself. I believe Sainz has made Q3 every session so far this season. But yeah, not bad. And now it's time to move on to the race.
The Formula One circus has made its way to the southern coast of Portugal this week, and it's preparing for what I expect to be a terrific race here in Portimao. .9 miles of track at Portimao, featuring 15 turns, 9 to the right and 6 to the left. There's a lot going on here, a lot of elevation changes that will affect the driver's braking and acceleration. Keep an eye out for the DRS zone on the final straight. That will be the setup for a lot of today's overtaking chances. Anthony Davidson, a very warm welcome to you as you join me in the commentary box for today's event. Let's discuss Red Bull. There have been some tweaks to the power unit regulations, of course, and I have to say it doesn't seem, so far at least, that they've been able to keep up.
It doesn't look promising for them so far. And if the new regs have hit them as hard as we think, well, I suspect they may need a few late nights at the factory to get back on track.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Lando Norris put in a fantastic lap yesterday and will start from pole position. And it's Lewis Hamilton alongside. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Sainz, Perez, Valtteri Bottas and Ricciardo, Leclerc, Benjamin, Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Yuki Tsunoda and Raikkonen, Ocon, Russell, Lance Stroll and Antonio Giovinazzi, Matsushita, Latifi, Mick Schumacher and Nikita Mazepin. Now, it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
After the points finish last race, let's aim to keep the momentum going.
So here we are on the grid for the Portuguese Grand Prix, and no grid penalties for anyone around us here, so we're going to be staying in P8. You can see it looks like it's going to be a two-stop strategy based on what the team has given us, but we're going to play around a little bit here because I feel like we can make a one-stop work if we try the hard tyre, and you can see there it does let us do it, and it says it's going to be about 12.5 seconds faster than what was originally planned. So we've got that in the bank, but just in case that strategy doesn't work out, because obviously we can't really know how much tyre wear we're going to have, or safety cars and everything, you know, sort of battles or spins or damage or anything. None of that's really known. So we're going to stick with the two-stop that the team has given us, but we're going to have a look at what the AI around us ends up doing, and we're going to adapt our strategy from there and maybe switch over onto the one-stop if I think the softs can maybe last long enough to get there. You can see we have to push the softs an extra lap, and then obviously we have to do a whole 22 laps on the hard tyres. So yeah, that's the plan. So far the plan, so yeah, two-stop strategy, but very possibly and most likely going to be switching to a one-stop at some point as we head on to the formation lap. New to this series now, I'm going to be doing a formation lap. Sort of gives us time to do a bit of a summary and just a bit of a recap on what's happening and what we're looking at heading into the race. So starting P8, we've got Leclerc ahead of us, Verstappen behind us, and Sainz is up in P3, which is a best qualifying position for our team ever. So yeah, this is the first time we've had a car qualify that high up the grid, both last season and now in this season. So yeah, that's really good to see. We are making progression as we have a bit of a weird moment here, ghosting inside of Max Verstappen there as we are pulling up onto the grid, and we now wait for the rest of the cars to complete their formation lap. Shouldn't take too long as the last cars are now lining up and taking their positions there as we flick over to the lights as we prepare to go. It's going to be 5 red lights and we are underway for the Portuguese Grand Prix. It's actually an awesome start. We get a better start than Leclerc. We pull up alongside and ahead of Daniel Ricciardo as we head towards turn 1. We're already into P6, having to slow down to make sure we don't hit Perez and Bottas. There's a yellow flag. I'm not too sure what that is. Someone's had an incident behind us somewhere. But a great start to make up 2 positions before even getting close to turn 1 there. So that's very different. Normally we lose a couple of positions. As you can see, we're actually now right behind Valtteri Bottas, trying to make another position here as we head into the hairpin. Very close to smashing into the back of Perez there, and actually Bottas capitalising there and making a move on Perez himself. They're going to go side by side, and Bottas does pull ahead of Perez. Perez backing out before making probably inevitable contact through that sweeping right-hander. But now we are on the back of that Honda-powered Red Bull, which, as Crofty was saying in the build-up, the Honda isn't a great engine. I'm pretty sure it is the worst engine on the grid in this season. So, yeah, I was planning on maybe going on the Honda for this season, but after seeing how poor its performance was, we did end up going with the Mercedes, which is the strongest engine on the grid, which luckily we were able to afford that. And so far this season, that has helped us. Last time at Imola, obviously, we had a bit of a battle with Perez on the final lap, and having that extra power advantage definitely helped us get that position over him as we head through the final corner now onto lap 2. Are we going to have the speed to maybe make a move on Perez into turn 1? We're using ERS. We actually ran out of ERS deployment there just before getting to the start line. You can see we are closing on Perez, but not quite close enough as we head through turn 1 and 2. We are right on the back of the Red Bull. Maybe a dive into turn 3, not quite. We're going to sit behind and wait and be patient. You can see going for a wider entry into turn 4 there. That's going to give us a better run onto the straight. No DRS yet, obviously. It's only lap 2, but you're right on the back of the Red Bull. We're going to go to the inside of the hairpin. We're going to go side by side as we have a little bit of a lock-up. Perez is going to have the better run out of the hairpin, so we're going to keep going side by side. But with that extra Mercedes power there, we are able to sweep around the outside like Bottas did on lap 1, and that is us up into P5, and that's sort of put the two Red Bulls with each other now, so it'll be interesting to see how aggressive Verstappen is against his teammate there. Verstappen, obviously, the number 1 driver in that team, as we've seen in real life, and I'm pretty sure that's how it's coded in the game as well. So it'll be interesting to see if anything happens there, but now our sight is focused on Valtteri Bottas up ahead, who is trying to close in and overtake our teammate Carlos Sainz, who, good for him, he's retained his 3rd position, but you can see Lando Norris and Lewis Hamilton have sort of pulled a bit of a gap, and they're starting to pull away now up ahead as we cut forward a lap there to lap number 3 now. We've sort of all stayed pretty similar. We've set a purple first sector though and a personal best sector 2, and as we come across the line, we're going to set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix there. So great pace from us at the start of this race. We haven't quite pulled a second over Perez yet, so they are still within DRS range, but it is really confidence boosting to know that we do have the pace to close in on these guys ahead. You can see through turn 3, first sector is absolutely my fastest part of the track compared to all the AI around us. As we head up the back straight, we do have DRS off of Bottas up ahead. You can see once again setting a purple first sector, but cutting towards the end of lap 4 onto lap 5 now. Bottas is very close to Sainz. He's going to have the DRS on him. Is he going to go for a move into turn 1? Yes, he is. He's going to pull to the inside. How easy is Sainz going to make it for him? Sainz is going to try and hold the outside line there. Good stuff there from Sainz to try and hold position as we go through turn 3 now. We are right on the back of this little battle pack, and Sainz is going to keep holding position. He's not going to let this position go as we head through turn 4 now. They're going to go side by side down the straight. I'm going to try and get a benefit out of this. Sainz does have the DRS on Bottas, so Bottas not going to have great straight line speed here. We're going to go 3 wide through the hairpin. How if we all come out of that without any damage, as Bottas and Sainz are able to get the better run there? They're going to keep going side by side. Who's going to get the position here? They're still going side by side now as we start heading up the hill. Still, we have to brake to make sure not to make contact. There's a yellow flag behind us, so another incident happening just behind us here that we're going to have a look at later. Sainz does hold 3rd place over Bottas there somehow. We've come out of this all in the same positions as we started that battle over half a lap ago, but that has allowed the Red Bulls to get in on this battle now. So we've got a 5-car race now with Sainz, Bottas, myself, and the 2 Red Bulls of Perez and Verstappen still behind us. Interesting to note that Verstappen still hasn't done anything about Sergio Perez as we head through the final corner. Once again, it looks like we're all going to be close enough to have a bit of a battle here. I'm a lot closer to Bottas this time though, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens this time. We all have the DRS train in behind Sainz. We're going to cut right to the inside. Bottas is going to go to the inside. We're going to be 3 wide into turn 1. There's no way we come out of this. We have come out somehow in 3rd place ahead of Valtteri Bottas, who has also gotten ahead of our teammate Carlos Sainz there. I don't know how we all got out of that with no damage, but somehow we have made our way onto the podium position there, and we do get the strategy call there from Jeff to go to the one-stop strategy onto the hards. So good to see we're able to look after the tyres enough to make that work. Hopefully they do the same for Carlos Sainz as we continue on here. We're going to have a look at some replays now. Here's what happened to Daniel Ricciardo. That's what the yellow flag was for. So the championship leader heading into this round gets spun around and sent right to the back of the grid at the start of this race. He had a pretty poor qualifying, and unfortunately that just doomed him to the mid-pack there as we sort of dived to the inside, if you remember, of turn 1. He was sort of just stuck in the middle of the road, and he's fallen way behind now. That's going to be a real shame, and he's going to have to make a big comeback. You can see he was the yellow flag, if you remember, during this battle, so here's Sainz and Bottas going side by side with us just behind, and the 2 Red Bulls, nothing happening there. And there's Yuki Tsunoda, so Yuki It looks like he just spun it on his own just behind us there. So that's an unfortunate incident there for the Japanese driver in the Alpha Tauri, as you can see cutting through the field, and there was us just before we move on to this move down the straight. This was insane, 3 wide down the main straight and into turn 1. Sainz luckily smart enough there to just sort of back out of it, because if he had tried to hold it around the outside, that could have been a colossal incident there. But luckily we were able to go into P3. You can see now cutting on to lap 7. This is live. Unfortunately, it's got the replay symbol there. I don't know why you're not able to remove that, but Lewis Hamilton is right on the back of Lando Norris. This is for the lead of the Grand Prix into turn 1. Lewis is going to go to the inside. Is Lando going to put up a fight? He is, as you would expect from the young Brit going up against the 7-time world champion. He's going to try hold it around the outside of turn 3, but not quite able to do it, and Lewis Hamilton takes the lead of the Portuguese Grand Prix ahead of Lando Norris as we cut to our perspective now. As you can see, this was sort of happening at the same time as that move. We were just watching Valtteri Bottas blast past us here down the main straight and into turn 1, and he takes 3rd place off of us now. You can see we've still got Carlos Sainz just behind us, so good to see he's sticking with us. The 2 Red Bulls are also not too far behind him, but unfortunately there, yeah, Sainz just had a massive amount of pace over us down that main straight with the DRS and slipstream, and I imagine he would have been using overtake mode as well as we try and stay close behind. But yeah, as we know, as I've said, the first sector is where I am the quickest, and as we cut towards the end of lap 8, you can see he's pulled 8 tenths on us now, so should be close enough to keep getting DRS. But unfortunately there you can see actually Valtteri Bottas has the fast lap of the race, so he's absolutely on fire at the moment. It looks like it's his turn to start setting some blistering laps, although actually through turn 1 running a little bit wide, luckily not getting a warning or any sort of penalty there. But look how much time I've closed up here just in this first sector. This is absolutely where I'm quickest, as I've said already a few times, I guess, as we head through turn 4, a bit of a slide, and on to lap number 10 now. You can see Carlos actually into the pit lane, so yeah, a couple laps before we are meant to. This is going to be a very big moment. This could decide whether we get some good points tonight in this race. Is he going to be going for the 2-stop or the 1-stop? What tyres does our team have ready? It's the soft tyres. Carlos is going to be doing a 2-stop there, unfortunately. I don't know whether the team maybe just wasn't sure if he was going to be able to pull the 1-stop or not. Maybe he wasn't able to conserve tyres as well as we did. You can see Charles Leclerc also going to be on the same strategy, as we just get the radio call there from Jeff that our tyres are actually still looking good. So yeah, it really sucks there that Sainz is going to be on the 2-stop. As we saw, it's going to be the slower strategy. Unfortunately, if you can make your soft tyres last the first stint, then absolutely the 1-stop strategy is the way to go. You can see we've got about a second to the Red Bulls behind. They're just about hanging in DRS, but you can actually see up ahead we are actually right behind Lando Norris. I only just noticed that. We are right behind Lando Norris. He was 6-7 seconds up the road when he was in that battle with Lewis Hamilton, and now all of a sudden we are all over the back of him. Look at Bottas right on the back of Lando Norris. Does he have some sort of damage, or is his tyres just gone off the cliff? I'm not too sure. You can see he's going to pull into the pit lane this time round, as you'd sort of expect. Unfortunately there for Lando Norris, and I can confirm, unfortunately I don't have a replay, but he does have to get a front wing change, and he's going to be on a 2-stop strategy, so real unfortunate there from Lando Norris. He got pole position, he did the hard work in qualifying, and unfortunately there, I'm not sure if maybe he made a bit of contact with Lewis that we didn't see, but yeah, real unfortunate there for Lando. He's going to be out of contention for this race as Bottas dives into the pits at the end of lap 11, and we get the radio call that we're going to be boxing at the end of this lap 12 now. So most cars around us have pit now. You can see Lewis Hamilton is still out ahead. We're in P2 now, and we've got Perez in P3. Verstappen has pit, and the next car behind Perez is actually Alonso in P4, but he's 6 seconds away, and he's not really in this battle. That gap's going to keep opening as the race goes on, as we cut to the end of lap 12, and we are going to be diving into the pit lane this time around. You can see Hamilton has pit. We dive into the pits. Sergio Perez behind us dives into the pits, and I wouldn't be surprised you can see back ahead, back towards the back there, Alonso into the pits. So yeah, we're all going to be on the 1-stop strategy, all of us that have pit now, as Kimi Raikkonen blast past there. I guess he's going to be doing another lap or two. He might actually be on the mediums actually. So we're going to have to get this pit stop done. Is it quick enough to stay ahead of Perez? He was actually pretty close. We actually very close there to Perez, and you can see there, looking on the right hand side, there is Valtteri Bottas and Carlos Sainz, so they both get around us there into turn 1, so Bottas stays ahead, and Sainz has gotten that undercut to get ahead, but obviously he's on the soft tyres, so he's going to have to make another pit stop. You can see Perez gets in between myself and Verstappen, so Verstappen wasn't able to make that 1-lap undercut work for him there. and he's going to have to try and make this move on Sergio Perez. Unfortunately for him there, he's not going to get the easy pass with the fresher rubber for that one lap, as Ricciardo says the fastest lap of the race. He's also on a 2-stop after having to do an early pit stop with front wing damage. It's a real shame there from a fellow Aussie. This could maybe be his one and only chance at a world championship. Who knows what future seasons will bring, but I have seen in other career modes he does retire pretty early on in this game, so hopefully he's able to sort of claw his way back in the championship. But you can see nothing really happened for quite a while. You can see we've cut to lap 20 now, and unfortunately for Sainz, he wasn't able to make the soft tyre work, and he's just sort of been sitting in this train. We've all been sitting in a little bit of a train. We have pulled a gap to the Red Bulls. We got 3.4 seconds there as Sainz pulls into the pit lane here for his second and hopefully final pit stop there. So huge shame there for Sainz, but that's us back into P3 now. We just about have DRS on Valtteri Bottas. Luckily, our teammate gave us that DRS there, so big thanks to Sainz. But yeah, hopefully we can now just sort of hang with Bottas, maybe go for a move in second. I don't know if we're going to be able to close in on Hamilton. You can see 4.5 seconds up to the 7-time champion. And actually, you can see, cutting to lap 23, it's actually 3.3 seconds, so we've already closed in over a second. So I'm just going to sit behind Bottas and try and get a bit of slipstream here, so it looks like he has the pace. But we're going to cut to Carlos Sainz here as they round the final corner. He's closed in on Kimi Raikkonen, who has now made his first pit stop a few laps ago. And here comes Sainz on the medium tyres. Sorry, he's actually going to go to the outside of turn 1. That's a surprise. He goes around the outside, and it's actually a pretty easy move. Kimi doesn't put up too much of a fight there in the Aston Martin, so good to see Sainz is in the points. He's in P7 now, and he's got to close in a 4.5 second gap to Fernando Alonso for P6, and I say that's probably the highest he's going to get because it's a massive gap to the Red Bulls up ahead, and the Red Bulls are just going to have too much pace. So yeah, good to see Sainz up there as Ricciardo sets the fastest lap once again. But yeah, it looks like a P6 is going to be the highest he can go for, unless we maybe have a safety car, in which case he might actually be in the box seat for a real good position as we head through the final corner at the end of lap 23 here. I'm actually pretty close to Sainz. You can see the gap to Hamilton up ahead has stayed around the 3.5 second mark. So yeah, we're not closing in anymore, so this is my time. I think we're going to try and make a move on Valtteri Bottas. We have the DRS, we're using what overtake mode we have left, and we're going to very easily blast past the Finn into turn 1. And actually, I say that, he comes back around the outside of turn 1 there, but hitting through turn 2 and into turn 3, we do pull back ahead of the Mercedes, and that is us once again ahead of Bottas, and this time it's into P2. So yeah, strong race from us so far. We could be looking at our first podium here of the season, our second podium in the team, and well, I don't want to be saying this too early, but we're going to try and push to close in on Lewis Hamilton for possibly our second win and our first win of the season. You can see, looking further back now, these are the two Red Bulls, and finally Verstappen has had enough. He's going to go for a move on his teammate Sergio Perez, and actually that was a very simple move. That may have even just been some team orders there from Red Bull to allow Verstappen to get through and see if he can maybe close in the gap to Valtteri Bottas after we've had that little bit of a scrap. So yeah, it's a shame the Red Bulls fell that bit behind, but those Honda engines, that is absolutely going to be the Red Bulls' Achilles heels at this point as we cut on to lap number 27 as we head through turn 3. We're going to have a look at Carlos Sainz, our teammate, because he has closed in on Fernando Alonso as they head onto lap 27 themselves now onto the main straight. Sainz has the DRS. He's going to have a pretty easy move here on Alonso into turn 1. Is Alonso going to put up a big fight? He's on older hards, and Alonso does put up a fight as they head through turn 2 side by side here, and now turn 3. Surely Sainz can get this move done. No. The two-time world champion putting up a big fight here against his countryman in our car as they head down the straight. Alonso's actually going to have the DRS, whereas Sainz has the Mercedes power, as he's going to now have hopefully the better run out of the hairpin as he has the outside line, and he is going to finally get ahead of Fernando Alonso and into P6. So great recovery there from Sainz. I'm pretty sure he was down in P10, P9 somewhere after making his second pit stop. So great to see he's able to get himself up into P6 as we cut back to our perspective now at the end of lap 27. You can see we've actually started to close in on Lewis Hamilton. It's now 2.8 seconds. I got into a bit of a rhythm this time around. You can see we got about 7 tenths back to Valtteri Bottas, and the gap to the Red Bulls back behind is 6.2 seconds. So that should be pretty clear as we come up on Mazepin there. We're going to go through the order a bit. So it's Lewis Hamilton leading the way ahead of us. We are chasing him down now. At this point, we do have the pace over him, and we have Valtteri Bottas just behind, sort of following us in the tow. Maybe he'll try and make a move on his teammate, the reigning world champion. Here's Max Verstappen in the Red Bull in P4 ahead of his teammate Sergio Perez. He's pulled about a second and a half over his teammate there. And Carlos Sainz in P6. He's about 15.5 seconds off of the Red Bulls there, and he has pulled a bit of a gap to Fernando Alonso. Kimi Raikkonen doing well in the Aston Martin there in P8, and Lando Norris is just behind him. Good recovery from Lando after having to do a little bit of an impromptu two-stop there, and also have to change the front wing. Good to see him getting a couple points. Ocon rounds out the top 10 there in the Alpine, and you can see Daniel Ricciardo, the once was championship leader heading into this round. He won't be after this. You can see he's down in P16, just pulled off a move on Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri there. He won't be getting points this time around, and yeah, him and Lando were equal on points, so Lando will take the lead of the championship, and the Mercedes boys might actually get themselves up in that fight as well. They weren't super far off as we head on to lap 28. You can see gap staying at about 2.9 seconds at the moment, so pace sort of evened out at this point as we head down the main straight. Bottas not quite able to get close enough as we cut to lap 29 though. However, you can see coming through the final sector, we're going to come up across the line and actually set a purple third sector, so the pace sort of came back to me at this point as we cut on to lap number 30. We've set a personal best sector 1 and a personal best sector 2 as we head through the final sector. This is sort of where I got this final corner figured out, running a little bit wide there however, and we're going to get a radio message.
It looks like we might have an issue. Hang in there, we're attempting to manage it.
And that is not what we want to hear with 3 laps to go. You can see we've pulled the gap down to 1.4 seconds, and within this lap we should be able to close in on Lewis Hamilton with the current pace that we have. But if we have a car issue, the best that could happen is we lose a bit of pace, maybe, if they're not able to fix it. But what if we get a retirement at this stage of the Grand Prix? We're going to get another radio message.
It looks critical. Find somewhere to retire as soon as possible. We can't risk you carrying on with this race.
Oh no!
I repeat, find somewhere to retire immediately. It's too dangerous to stay on track.
I absolutely cannot believe it. 2.5 laps to go. We were on for the race win there, and we have to retire with an engine failure here at the Portuguese Grand Prix. You can see there's the message, mechanical failure. We have to retire from the session. Unbelievable.
And Mercedes have pulled off a great victory here today. Tell me, Ant, how did they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
And I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
So here are the results for the Portuguese Grand Prix. Unbelievably we DNF, but Lewis Hamilton gets the race win ahead of his teammate Valtteri Bottas. It's a 1-2 for Mercedes, followed by a 3-4 for the 2 Red Bulls of Verstappen ahead of Perez, and our teammate Carlos Sainz ends up in P5 there. Solid recovery from him having to do a 2-stop. You can see Fernando Alonso in P6, Lando Norris, the now championship leader, in P7 ahead of Kimi Raikkonen in the Aston Martin in P8, Ocon in P9, and Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin gets that last point in the race. But yeah, just a huge disappointment there. We had some mega pace in the second half of the Grand Prix, and unfortunately with 2.5 laps to go, where we were looking so good to attack Lewis Hamilton for the race win, the engine just decided to go pop as we scroll down. You can see we are technically still classified there, funnily enough, because we were only, as I said, 2.5 laps from the finish of the race. And just to show that we did have some great pace, you can see there we're only we're within a tenth of the fastest lap of the race there, and that was Daniel Ricciardo. They got the fastest lap, and obviously he was on the 2-stop, so he had fresher tyres and softer rubber as well. But you can see in the championship, Lando leads by 4 points ahead of Valtteri Bottas, the reigning world champion. Daniel Ricciardo actually stays in P3 there, only 6 points off of his teammate. Obviously Lando didn't have a great race there, so he didn't have much of an opportunity to pull massive amounts of points, and Lewis Hamilton sits in P4, so very tight championship there. The top 4 within 7 points of each other, and then it's Verstappen in 5th, and then our teammate Sainz in 6th. He's actually within a race win distance of the lead of the championship. They're only 21 points off, so that's great to see there. Meanwhile, we are right down in P9. But in terms of the Constructors' Championship, we unfortunately lose the place to Red Bull after they had that great 3-4 finish with Verstappen in 3rd and Perez in 4th. And yeah, unfortunately, with me not getting those big points, we could have gotten an extra 25 points there. But yeah, unfortunately, it just wasn't quite meant to be this time round. And Mercedes and McLaren are actually very close to each other in the Constructors as well for the lead in that battle. But you can see that, again, something unfortunate from that DNF. We would have destroyed Ricciardo in that rivalry in the race there, but because we had that DNF, he gets some more points over us. We unfortunately don't get much acclaim out of the race either, which I think that sort of needs a bit of tweaking. It should be able to recognise that we were on for a possible race win there, but unfortunately we just had an issue that was out of our control. You can see bringing in some money, that's good. You can see getting all 3 of those sponsor objectives, and only 3.2k worth of damage. I'm not sure if that's due to our engine failure or if maybe we chipped a bit of the barge board or front wing somewhere, but 6.13 mil in the bank is very solid. And we're going to have a look here at what it was that actually went bang in the engine, and it was the control electronics, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure that gets damaged from running over curbs. So yeah, unfortunately in Portugal you do use the curbs quite a fair bit, and you can see just going through and changing all of our components over to the second one, except for the energy store, because we only have 2 of those for the season. But heading into Spain next time out, we're going to have pretty much a completely fresh engine. Now, we have just under 3,000 resource points here to splash on some upgrades, and we're going to go for some aero, because I feel like that's where we are lacking, unfortunately. You can see they're going for a front downforce, and that's going to come in after Spain either way, whether we rush or not. And it's going to be the exact same story for some rear downforce as well. So after Spain, we should hopefully be getting a massive amount of downforce upgrades. So good to see there. You can see you have 791 resource points, and unfortunately that's just not really enough to get anything else. The only thing we can afford here is this fuel efficiency upgrade, but already as it is, we can pretty much put the fuel down to minus 1 lap worth of fuel, and we get that back pretty easily, and we end up with maybe a lap of extra fuel as it is. So I'm not really going to go for that upgrade. It's not really necessary. Might as well bank up the resource points. In terms of activities, we're going to do simulator training there to help with Sainz's experience and focus. That may be what he needs to just boost his tyre wear stats, and maybe that could have been the difference between the 1-stop and 2-stop. And we're also going to splash 3 million on the simulator there to help, again, with Sainz's or just any of our second teammates' experience stats there. So yeah, starting to spend some money on our teammates. You can see we actually get an aero upgrade in on the car, so we should have a bit of an improved car heading into Spain next time round for the Spanish Grand Prix. So if you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this. We'll be Spain next episode, and I'll see you all then. Goodbye.